You may have seen the video I did on Lyme disease. I suffered from this for maybe 4 or 5 years before finally curing it with antibiotics. But the Lyme disease actually triggered an autoimmune disease which caused massive inflammation. So my consultant, who specialised in rheumatology, put me on one of the new biologic drugs called Benepali or etanercept. Now this was great. After 3 weeks I could move much more easily and I was feeling much better. And undoubtedly I'm very grateful to that drug. It's quite expensive. It's about £300 a week and you inject it into yourself. But what I didn't like about it is it damps down your whole immune system. So therefore you are more vulnerable to other diseases such as cancers and things like that. And I did feel slightly damped down myself. I didn't have the same energy levels that I had enjoyed previously. So that's what made me really dig into and research all alternative methods that can help stop inflammation. Anyone who's on Benepali or etanercept, I wouldn't say drop it immediately. I did phase it out slowly, and my consultant said I would never get off it. So she was really surprised when she found out that I'd stopped it. And I've now stopped it for coming up for 6 months, and I'm feeling better and better each day. I really didn't want to stay on the drugs all my life, and my symptoms were in common with many people with inflammatory disorders, although they manifest themselves in many different ways. But I had extreme stiffness, I could hardly get in and out of the bath, I had a very high resting pulse, I had very low energy. But now the long and short of it all is the fact that I'm totally off all drugs. I've reduced my inflammation to normal levels and I feel fantastic. So I'm quite keen to share my experiences with you because a lot of people suffer from massive inflammation. Inflammation isn't a life-threatening disease, but it causes quite a lot of discomfort. And you generally know you have an inflammatory problem by blood tests. And the ones they usually do are the ESR and the CRP. And these should be in single figures, but in my case they were in the hundreds, so they were massively high. Basically, my body was attacking myself with the autoimmune, and that was causing this massive inflammation. I actually did 6 things in order to try and reduce it. I heavily researched those things. My son's a medic and he led me to Google Scholar, which is a scientific search engine, and so you can put in things like turmeric effects on inflammation or anything you're thinking of using. You can actually see if there's any scientific research to back it up. Now the problem is, with these alternative medicines, nobody is going to make a fortune. When drug companies do lots of scientific research, they patent their drug, they obviously make millions and billions of pounds, but no one's going to make lots of money out of telling people to exercise more or whatever. But you do find some research, and everything I've looked into has actually shown very positive things. And in my own case, I found they definitely worked. Or one of them, or some of them have worked. I don't know exactly which. So what were these magic 6 things that I did? So first of all, it's all about the gut biome. And I think the more research that people are doing on this, they're finding that if you have a healthy gut biome, then you are going to be far healthier. It works in your stomach and throughout your whole body. Particularly after having all the antibiotic, my gut biome would be pretty poor, to put it mildly. I had 3 months of antibiotic injected into me intramuscularly, heavy doses to get rid of the Lyme. And so what I did for this is I took probiotics and prebiotics. Now probiotics are it's actually taking in bacteria, healthy bacteria in your body. And the one I took was Simprove, and I still take it now. And Simprove is a liquid, you take it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach and you don't eat for 10 minutes. And I noticed quite a marked result after a couple of weeks or so on this. The other forms of probiotics that you can take that I take are raw cider vinegar. I have about 3 dessert spoons a day. I have it in warm water with a tiny bit of honey. I might add some ginger, and it has to have the mother in it. So it's a natural, live, living organism. And you get used to it. It's quite bitter, but you just adapt to it, and I've had it for many years now. Kefir is another thing. I enjoy it. I love it. I have a bit every day. But then you also need prebiotics to actually feed those bacteria that you're taking in from the Simprove and the cider vinegar and everything else. Now, you can just have a really healthy diet of varied plants, and that will give you enough food for the probiotics to live on. But I actually have just started taking another prebiotic, which is actually called Bimuno, which is a powder you mix in a bit of water and you have any time of the day. Improving your microbiome in your stomach also means eating a healthy diet, and they reckon you should have 30 or 40 different plant-based things every week in your diet to give you a good healthy gut biome. So obviously growing your own, that is much easier, because I can go out into the vegetable garden now in March. I can pick some chives, I can pick some leaves from celeriac to put in a salad, I can put in lettuces I've got growing now, I've got spring onions now, radishes coming up, Jerusalem artichokes. Now, Jerusalem artichokes have inulin in them. This is what makes you very gaseous. It really does make you break wind a lot to start with. But inulin is once thought to be quite a magic ingredient to really increase your gut biome. And the more you take, the less it affects you. So you sort of build up a resistance to the gaseousness if you don't like that. But Jerusalem artichoke is well worth growing. It's very easy to grow and it's pretty tasty, I think. So if you can grow in your vegetable garden as many different plants that you can use all the year round, that really makes it far, far easier. You can, of course, include things like rye and wheat and barley and oats that you might have in your muesli, as well as many different nuts and things like that. And I've given up sugar completely, as it's been linked to higher inflammatory markers. I try to avoid all processed foods, and I'm proud to say I am a McDonald's virgin. Number 2 is supplements. Now, lots of people have heard about turmeric being an anti-inflammatory, and I'm fully in agreement with that. It seems to help. When I mentioned this to my consultant, she said, for your level of inflammation, you could eat all the turmeric in the world and it really wouldn't do much good. But I do think it helps, and I take it every day, and I split it 3 times throughout the day. Another thing I take is boswellia, which is specifically for rheumatoid arthritis. And so because I had this stiffness, I do take that, and I think possibly it helps. I'm also a big fan of emu oil. So I take this in capsule form, and it's known to have anti-inflammatory properties and to be an antioxidant. And I take 2 or 3 capsules of that a day. And I've been doing that for about 9 months now. And maybe it's that's working, I don't know, but it's easy, it's not that expensive, and so I'm continuing to take it. It's probably good for my hair as well, I hope. The next, which I think is probably the simplest of all, and I think you should do whether you're suffering from inflammatory disorders or not, and that is stimulating the vagus nerve. Now, again, scientific evidence on this seems to have come out in the last 4 or 5 years, big time, and everybody is realizing the benefits of stimulating your vagus nerve. So what is the vagus nerve? Well, the vagus nerve actually controls your parasympathetic nervous system. If you're walking through the woods and you saw a bear, you would scream, your adrenaline would kick in, and you would fly, disappear, run away. And the opposite end of that is your parasympathetic nervous system, which actually calms you down. So when you get stressed and your heart goes bum, 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 and you worry, what you need to do is take deep breaths, which is what our grandmothers always told us to do. And if you take deep breaths, and that's 6 breaths per minute, that's really taking a big breath, filling your diaphragm, and then really pushing the air out, not when you're speaking like I'm doing. And you do that with 6 breaths per minute, preferably in a sitting position. Then it really kicks your vagus nerve into touch. Now, as we get older, your vagus nerve actually reduces in the amount it works. It reduces its efficacy. So like any muscle, you need to stimulate it. So if you stimulate your vagus nerve for maybe 5 or 10 minutes each day, just by taking these big, deep breaths, it really does calm you down. So it helps cure all manner of things. And I think in today's life, many people get stressed with many things that are thrown at them. And I think if you have a way of de-stressing yourself, as simple as stimulating your vagus nerve by doing some deep breathing, I think you will find is really helpful. And it's something you get, if you start practicing every day, then when you get wrought up and you have a difficult phone call, whatever, you can just go outside, take a few deep breaths, feel better and relax. And stress is thought to increase inflammation and immune problems. Another thing that I think I use, which I think possibly has helped, is my PEMF mat. Mary Berry had a friend with Lyme disease and he used this and he found it really helped. Basically, it increases healing through the use of pulsed magnetic fields. And it's been shown to help all sorts of things like bone regrowth, like stiffness. It increases your body's healing at a cellular level. There's a lot of research on these PEMF mats that say that they do work, and I think they're gaining popularity, and I think they are becoming less alternative, perhaps more mainstream. So I lie on that for 40 minutes a day, which seems a long time, split into two different parts. But you can do other things while you're lying on the mat, so it's not too bad. And it's actually quite nice just to relax. Just 15 minutes of daily exercise lowers the levels of inflammatory substances called cytokines, and it increases the level of endocannabinoids. These reduce inflammation. Exercise triggers this by altering those all-important gut microbes. I feel better though if I do a minimum of 45 minutes of exercise every day. So then my final one, which a lot of people find more difficult as they get older, is good sleep. And I think if you can have a good night's sleep, it really helps. And I find if I don't have a good night's sleep for any reason, then I'll take a power nap after lunch. If I'm working from home, I'll just pop upstairs and I'll have like a 15-20 minute nap. Doesn't want to be too long because you don't want to get into a deep sleep. You just have a quick light sleep and it really picks you up for the rest of the day. And I've got to the stage that I think I could sleep anywhere. And I wake up after 20 minutes automatically. It's sort of set into my rhythm now. And when I was working in Japan, it was fascinating because you'd see all the workers, construction workers at lunchtime would just lie flat out on a plank at lunchtime, shut their eyes and have a power nap for 20 minutes. And it's fantastic. And so make sure that you have a good night's sleep. If you don't, or anyway, perhaps boost it with a power nap. Things like lavender helps relax you, helps you go to sleep, chamomile drinks, all those sort of things, not using electronic things late at night before you go to bed. Do everything you can to get a really good night's sleep, because then your body will just help heal itself.